Hello, I am right now in Albreda, still on Albreda. After that tour around the seaside where I showed you the first Portuguese chapel that was built by the Portuguese in the Gambia in the 1500s, in 1560s, about 600 years ago. I also took you on a tour and showed you James Island and the old French trading posts. I also took you to around the fishing boats that you transport sometimes people to James Island, and then sometimes they also go for their normal fishing duty. So I am right now at the museum in Jufurreh, that's Albreda. So what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna take you on a tour around the area to show you just how like this place is. It's a beautiful, it's really a nice place. Now this is where they have the display of some of the wood carvings that they normally do. But like I was told by the man in charge currently inside that these people have closed down for the day. So it's just around 3 p.m. and they close because it's the off season, tourists are not coming. So you know this is the generator that they use. I don't know whether it's still in use, but that's the generator. And then we have the main entry point. Basically this place is a display of the Atlantic slave trade, what was happening during the slave trade. So all in here in Jufurreh, in Albreda. Let me take you on a tour. This is the display of what happens during the slave trade. This is basically a statue showing like what used to happen during the slave trade. If you look at here, this is a chain. This is a chain that is used to chain slaves when they are caught in the bush or in their normal settlements by the white people, and their ships will, I'm told the ships will normally be at anchor around James Island, and then this is a chain. If you look at this, is a typical artistic making showing what used to happen during the slave trade. This is another display, a picture that shows what used to happen. So when the slaves are caught, they are normally put on chains. So but this is a clear reflection of chains being put into their necks, and then it is tied into one person's neck to the other. This is clearly a female, this is a male clearly, and I think this is a child. So it is a artistic display of what used to happen during the Atlantic slave trade. So these are one of the big longest or the oldest trees, I am told, here in Jufurreh. So it's also a very old tree. I was told by the people in this area that it is about 200, close to 200 years according to them. So this is the site. This is the museum. We are currently at the museum in Jufurreh. So I'm gonna take you on a conducted tour of the area. So let me lead you. This is Morel Freres SA Incorporated Senegal with limited liability, because it's a UNESCO, United Nations Education, Scientific and Cultural Organization. So it's also a UNESCO. So if you look at clearly here, it's stated exhibition on the slave trade. Exhibition on the slave trade. So this is the museum. We have the TTI this thing. You notice photograph around this area. So how are you? I want you to do a coverage around the inside. Yeah, I want to take. I hope I am allowed. So this is one of the museums here in Jufurreh. I visited here on Wednesday, but I was not able to do the coverage. So what happens is this is just a display inside of all the pictures what used to happen during the Atlantic slave trade. This is the man in charge. Mr. How are you doing? If you look at clearly here, it's stating Salaam Alaikum. How are you guys doing? It's clearly a picture showing how James Allen was. So it's more or less a drawing. It's not a real picture. It's a drawing. So coming of the Europeans, James Island is one of the key sites in the history of the British West Africa. It's also, this is a replica of how the island used to be after the incorporated by the British. So this is the story from 1456 to 1816. That's between 400-500 years period. So it's from 1456. We also have slavery in West Africa. West Africa considered many states based on tribal affiliation. So it's more or less. So this is the equipment that they must use. I think what I have shown you outside is basically display. So it's the instrument of restraint and torture. This is what they used to torture the slaves. We have slave trade and Senegambia. It's also information that gives you a guideline of what used to happen during the slave trade. This is the guns. You have the gun flintlock, cannonballs, rifle bullets, European musket Saka 1800s. This is mostly used to hunt slaves, like in the inland. This is also, I think, more or less the flint scrapper, perhaps brought to James Island for use as a gun flint. This is the map showing how the Atlantic slave trade used to happen. So this is a display of what used to happen during the Middle Passage when slaves are taken from West Africa and transported to the New World. If you look around, you can see some of the tourists are even on visit. And then, hi, how are you doing? So this is also some of the maltreatments that used to happen when they are along the Middle Passage. So basically, what is here is what happens between West Africa and the New World. So abolition, I have seen some display of pictures here who are abolitionists. Like if you look at here, the role of Fort Bullen, we'll be passing by there as part of our reporting trip. We have 6-gun battery at State House, the underground river. So this is Oluwada Achino. He's an ex-slave and also an abolitionist. So we have here Toussaint Overture. He led the Haitian slaves into revolt in 1799. A fleet of slaves. Thomas Clarkson. This is a picture of Thomas Clarkson. You have John Quincy Adams. John Quincy Adams is the son of John Adams, who is the second president of the United States. So John Quincy Adams is the second president of the United States. In 1839, age 74, he convincingly defended the Amistad mutineers during the American slave revolts. So here we have Governor Clarkson there. We also have a display of the abolitionist campaign memorabilia, and all that. So here also West Africans in early America. We have Ayuba Suleiman Jallow, 1701 to 1773. It's clearly these were some of the major West Africans in early America, or we call them in New England. So it's basically the history of the Gambia. These are Martin Robinson Delany, 1812 to 1885. Francisco Menendez, Anna Magidin, Jai Kingsley, Florida. The diaspora. So these are the diaspora. This is a picture of Bob Marley. During the formation of the National Congress of British West Africa, he was one of the key people that formed the National Congress of British West Africa. It's W.E.B. Du Bois, and all that. We have Martin Luther King around. We have George Padmore. We have Marcus Garvey. He was among these these people were among these key spearheaders of the National Congress and National Congress of British West Africa, and they hold their first congress in 1920. So you can imagine the plantation life in the United States. These slaves sweating in and out in tobacco. They are working. An artist's impression of a plantation farm this was early America, 1826, social systems and all that. So it's basically, I will be encouraging anybody to come here and visit because it has a wealth of knowledge. You can come here and see a lot of information about what used to happen at the slave trade. So we have Martin Luther King. It's called Portraits of the New Generation. So that's it, Portraits of a New Generation. So we have some of the key people here, pictures that were, We have Alex Haley. He was the major man, he was the major contributing man that led to the creation of that movie we call The Roots, where the highlights of how Kunta Kinte was caught in Jufurreh and transported across the Atlantic to the New World. So Alex Haley came here in 1967 to reconnect back to his roots in Jufurreh. So this is a picture of Alex Haley. He was one of the key people who discovered the roots and contributed to the creation of the Roots Homecoming Festival. So we have here Binta Kinte, matriarch of the Kinte family, which I think is the 7th oldest living generation of the Kunta Kinte family. So these are also pictures. The Smith College in Northampton, Massachusetts. Most of the information here is about the United States and some of the key people who have great links with the black community and who have origins in West Africa. So it's a great display of this thing. So here we have cowrie cells, iron bars and all that. So it's a great deal of information. It's talking about abolition. That's a picture of Thomas Clarkson, as I showed you earlier on. That's Thomas Clarkson. This is the display of the Middle Passage, how the slaves were arranged when they are being transported across the Atlantic. So this is a board that shows you how the slaves were arranged when they are being transported to the New World. This is a picture of a galleon. It's a slave ship basically. So it's a picture of a galleon. You could see a picture of a galleon and how slaves also sometimes sit on these things. This is a scene, it's a depiction about what is happening. It's around the coast of West Africa. So it's Francois Auguste Bayard, 1833. So this place has a wealth of knowledge. Plantation life, we took that. Some of the guns that were used. These were the guns that were used for hunting slaves. Then we have a map of West Africa, or the whole of Africa, and then the map showing the Atlantic slave trade activities in, around, basically around 1700s, how the place used to be. We have the coming of the Europeans. This is an introductory part of what used to happen. This is a show built like James Island, how it used to be a fort built by the British. So clearly, story of James Island. This from 1456, 1651, all that, all these are basically an information of how James Island came to exist. Slavery in West Africa, see it clearly. This is an information about slavery in West Africa, slave trade and Senegambia. Slave trade and this thing. This is a picture of the triangular trade. This is a small bronze cannon of the type of used in slaving expedition. It's a bronze cannon. So it's used to fire at people. Conditions of slavery. These are all conditions of slavery. This is a display. This is the other part of the display. So what happens here is the triangular trade. If you are in high school, you do it in history, and if you are in junior school, you do it as SES. So the triangular trade. You got slaves here. This is West Africa. This is the map of West Africa. So you have everything taken from this place, and then this is the Middle Passage, called the triangular trade. If you look clear, it's displayed here. The triangular trade. So from there, they are now taken to the New World, and when they are taken to the New World, this is where they are sold, and then they work in the plantation and all that. So I want to encourage everybody to visit this place. This is a very nice place, and you get wealth of information about it. So yes. Mister, thank you very much for giving me the privilege. I was also on this thing tour, so I felt it is important to come here.
That's good.
Thank you very much. So when I came here in 2011, I found a boat, a replica, but it's no longer.
No, the boat has a problem.
That's a problem.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much. So that was all about the expedition. So I'm gonna end the report here. Maybe we're gonna proceed to the ostrich farm right now, and because it's about to rain, so and if you look at clearly now, there are some tourists that came to visit this area. This is all in Albreda right now. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna end the report here, and then proceed towards the other end where we have ostrich parts that we can also have a visit. So as I said earlier on, that's clearly a tree. I'm told by the locals that it's one of the oldest trees here, and I think I have shown you James Island and all that. So it's a very nice place to be. I would encourage anybody to come here and visit the island. It's very good to know your history, to know the history of the Gambia. I have visited so many places, but Albreda and Jufurreh have a wealth of knowledge. So from here, maybe we also gonna visit the stone circles, because I also visited last year the slave house in Chanjambure. Yeah, so I also visited the uh, museum at Banjul that gives you a lot of information about the Gambia and it being a British colony. So I'm gonna end the interview here. I also want to thank you very much for using this opportunity to see what our country has. So I'm gonna end the report here. So basically, I'm gonna encourage everybody to visit the island. Thank you very much. I salute you.